Good day to you all. My name is Belinda Mutunhu and I am the presenter for this paper. I wrote this paper in collaboration with Dr. T. Vinyati and Dr. Sibusisi Wedube. We are all from the National University of Science and Technology in Bulawayo, Zimbabwe. The title of our paper is an analysis on the adoption of high-performance computing HPC in Zimbabwe state universities. I'm going to give you a brief background on what HPC is. So, high-performance computing refers to aggregating computing power in a way that delivers much higher performance in order to solve large problems in science, engineering, or in business. If you're going to be using an HPC, you find out that 3-day problems would normally take an hour to solve if you're going to be using an HPC. So Zimbabwe adopted an HPC in 2015, and this HPC is housed at the University of Zimbabwe. The organization that is responsible for this HPC is the Zimbabwe Center for High Performance Computing, known as ZCHPC. So the center has opened approximately 350 HPC accounts and has connected 11 universities, all in Zimbabwe. What motivated us to write this paper or to do this research is the statistics that were provided to us by the Zimbabwe Center for High Performance Computing, which indicated that there is a low usage of HPC by universities. Furthermore, we found out that there is no in-depth scholarly literature on Zimbabwe's HPC concerning usage and documentation empirically based on this developing country's context. You find out that the only information that is available is from the ZCHPC website and an online article from TechZim, which is an online magazine or an online newspaper in Zimbabwe. So it's not yet clear on the precise extent of adoption of this HPC. So the aim of this paper was to assess the factors influencing HPC adoption and recommend strategies to the Zimbabwe Center for High Performance Computing to improve uptake. The objectives were to identify the factors influencing the adoption of HPC in Zimbabwe state universities. The second objective was to establish the academics' perceptions on HPC in Zimbabwe state universities. The third objective was to analyze the usage of HPC in Zimbabwe state universities. The fourth and last objective was to recommend strategies to the ZCHPC in order to increase the adoption of HPC at state universities. For our methodology, the research philosophy that we used was interpretivism. As we all know, or if you're familiar with interpretivism, that it's able to express people's feelings and why they are adopting a certain technology. So we're able to get their opinions and their feelings about a certain phenomenon of interest. And our research purpose was descriptive and explanatory, as we're going to be explaining some of these concepts like HPC, its usage, and describing what HPC has been used for or how, and the factors that are influencing its adoption. Our research approach is qualitative, since we're going to be dealing with people's perspectives, opinions, and how this HPC affects them. The sampling technique used was purposive sampling of universities, and the universities that were purposively selected were state universities. And we made sure that the universities that we selected are all were picked up from each and every province. At least one province, we had a university that we purposively chose. Then we also used the snowball technique. The snowball technique was useful in this particular research because there are a few people who have know-how of HPC in Zimbabwe, and also we did not really know whom to interview or to go or to know those particular people. So we're relying on the people who have been referred to say, oh, these people are the ones so far who are working on HPC. So those people knew other people who are also working on HPC. So they were referring us to other people. At the end of the day, we had more people for this research. The theoretical framework that was used is the diffusion of innovations theory, as it is able to explain and illustrate the technology adoption trend from early adoption stage up to the late adoption stage, and also through the lens of the diffusion of innovations theory, we're able to know why people adopt a certain technology using certain factors that are there in the diffusion of innovations theory. So the data collection techniques that we used were a survey, whereby we were just surveying things on HPC. Firstly, we had an interview with the manager for the Zimbabwe Center for High Performance Computing, who's the one who gave us some of the statistics that they had on the usage of HPC. Then we did a survey amongst universities to find out if they really know about HPC or what they've heard about HPC. Then we also did personal interviewing, where we interviewed 16 people. These interviews were face-to-face interviews. We also held telephone interviews. We had telephone interviews because it was not possible for us to travel to all the Zimbabwe state universities. That some people we had to do interviews with them via the telephone. We also did participatory observation, where we were involved in the trainings and in the workshops that are held by the Zimbabwe Center for High Performance Computing, and we noted a lot of things that we're going to mention later on. We also distributed online questionnaires, but these online questionnaires, since it's a qualitative research, they were open-ended questionnaires, whereby people were filling in all the details or all the questions that we were asking them. So there were around 160 participants whom we distributed these questionnaires to, these open-ended questionnaires to. And of these 160 participants, 110 were returned and 7 were discarded due to disparities, giving a response rate of 78%. As for gender distribution, that is out of 103 participants, 84 were male and 26 were female. Our data analysis was done via qualitative content analysis. So from our research, we found out that there were certain factors that were impeding HPC adoption. The first and foremost one was complexity issues. That is complexity of the interface. HPC runs on Linux, and many people are not familiar with Linux. They are used to the Windows operating system. So this makes it difficult for them to adopt HPC. Furthermore, there is a lack of awareness on and know-how on HPC. People do not know what HPC is, how it's being used, and there isn't any adequate information about it. So you find out that people are not aware of this particular technology or where to get it from. Also, there is inadequate and lack of training to people who want to use this particular technology. There are people who know that whatever they have to research on might or requires an HPC, but there is no one to train them. If trainings are there, they are inadequate. Some are just being held once a year or twice in a year, and people don't have information on when these trainings are going to be, so that they can schedule them. Also, there's no documentation support on how you can actually use this HPC. Only information that is available is on the Zimbabwe Center for High Performance Computing, which is not enough to detail about HPC. Furthermore, there are software availability issues. The HPC that is there in Zimbabwe is running on limited software. Some people want to use it. They're saying that the software that they require is not available on the HPC. So at the end of the day, they're not going to use that HPC since their particular software that they require that is able to solve their problems is not there, or that is compatible with their research projects is not there. Another issue that is impeding HPC adoption is the location of the HPC. HPC is housed at the University of Zimbabwe. People are saying maybe if it is housed at the University of Zimbabwe, it's no longer something that can be used nationally. It's now a University of Zimbabwe infrastructure or technology. And maybe if we use it, we're boosting the rankings of the University of Zimbabwe. So the location of the HPC is also impeding its adoption. Furthermore, there are registration issues. People who want to use HPC don't know the right procedure. Remember, I also said there's no documentation support. So if somebody wants to register to use for an HPC, they do not know how they are going to, how or where to begin. They don't know if they have to open an account. Those who know that they have to open an account after filling in the form, they don't even know who to submit that form to. And there's no response even if you have submitted the form. They do not get what? They do not get response. Another issue that was noted was the lack of dedicated technical staffing. People who have issues with HPC or who require assistance noted that there are no people who are adequately staffed to cater for their needs. Whenever you call and you say you have a problem, it's either you are directed from one person to the other person, and at the end of the day, there's no assistance that you are getting. From our interviews with the Zimbabwe Center for High Performance Computing staff, they said that there are just 3 people who are there to cater for the needs of the people. But the people using the HPC are saying whenever they log in an issue, no one is there to respond. You never get a response. At the end of the day, you just end up not adopting HPC since you don't have support staff or personnel to help you. Furthermore, compatibility issues were also noted as one of the factors impeding HPC adoption. To say that some of the projects that people are running, they are not yet compatible with HPC, or the softwares that they are using are not compatible with HPC. There are so many things you have to install on your machine, or you now need to buy so that you are able to so that it's compatible with your project. So these were some of the factors that we noted as impeding HPC. So at the end of the day, we had recommendations for the Zimbabwe Center for High Performance Computing. So we find out that the study portrayed that there was a need to improve adoption and utilization of HPC in state universities. So the following were the recommendations given on the based on the results of the study. Since we said this HPC is being managed by the Zimbabwe Center for High Performance Computing, these recommendations are targeted at them. First is for them to build a graphical user interface, because users with no knowledge of Linux would be catered for, as they won't have to learn the command line interface. Another recommendation is for them to hold more workshops, trainings, and seminars on the importance of HPC to research advancement. The Zimbabwe Center for High Performance Computing should also hire more technical staffing or re-engineer on the already available staff, which will be answerable to the technical needs, user support, and documentation and training. Currently, 2 engineers are responsible for support. Furthermore, the Zimbabwe Center for High Performance Computing should increase awareness of HPC in universities. Currently, researchers rely on word of mouth to get information about HPC, and there are no posters scattered throughout any university referring to HPC. The Zimbabwe Center for High Performance Computing should also provide documentation support. So a downloadable basic detailed manual should be available for anyone and everyone to follow should they require to use HPC. They should also increase accessibility. Currently, the HPC can only be accessed at designated points, while the South African HPC can be accessed at any point where there is internet. So they have to deal with this issue on accessibility. Should also conduct science and technology capacity development programs. That is, run competitions targeting university scholars. Competitions on systems running on HPC would also increase awareness and also urge people to investigate and use the technology. Furthermore, the ZC HPC should establish HPC student hubs in various universities. This will improve awareness of HPC within the student community. They should also sponsor an HP prize for undergraduates and master's students who would have used HPC effectively for their final year projects. They can also create a women's HPC forum to increase female gender statistics, as we noted that female statistics on the usage of HPC are low. In South Africa, there's an HPC forum for female researchers. Zimbabwe can also do that. Since the Zimbabwe Center for High Performance Computing is under the Ministry of Higher and Tertiary Education, it should push for its early awareness at high school level. Then at university level, the application of HPC may be offered as a course, and more follow-up trainings should be conducted for the academia, especially as a course, in order to reinforce understanding of the functionalities of the HPC. An online help desk would also be suitable too, as most people are technology savvy and internet calling or communication is cheaper. Those were some of the recommendations that we had. As a conclusion, the study noted that HPC is not yet a must-have or a must-use for some users, as they did not have projects that require high computational power and speed. But despite the low uptake and challenges, users who had experienced the benefits could see that the shortfalls of HPC surpass its remarkable benefits like robustness and speed. Thank you for listening to this presentation. Are there any questions?